Hello, everyone. This is Allie Wolf, the Chief Economist with Zonda, here to go through the February Builder Update. Now, as a reminder, we reach out to 300 division presidents across the country every month to get their take on the market. We can break this down locally, but this video will go through the national trends, and we're releasing this ahead of our new home pending sales index. So watch for that next Friday, March 19th, where you'll be able to see how different metros are doing in terms of overall sales rate. But for now, your early look shows that 40% of builders did report that they had an increase in contract sales from an already strong January. So we know that January was exceeding expectations based on what the builders were telling us. Again, 53% of builders said that demand was stronger than they expected in February, even though we all really expected this year to be pretty strong, at least through the first half of the year. Now, 35% of builders did report that their sales were flat, leaving the balance of about 25% that said their sales were down. But as I read through the comments, there is one common theme, and that's that builders are regulating sales. And you can see this directly in the data. So when we reach out to builders and say, hey, have you slowed sales to match your production capacity? We have 52% of builders that said, yep, for sure. We're only selling a certain number of homes, and once we sell those, we're not going to sell any more throughout the month. Then we have an additional 20% that have either completely paused their sales or they're only selling homes at a certain stage. Now, extension of this discussion on sales is really who's buying? Because we know millennials are the largest living generation. We know that they are very, very active both in the new and the resale market. But when you ask builders who's most active in your communities right now, their number one answer is actually the move-up buyer. And it makes sense when we look at the equity gains and we look at the lifestyle changes that are generally associated with Gen X. You can really start to make the case for why there has been this increase of the move-up shopper. Plus, of course, the new home market normally is more of a luxury good, sometimes with a higher price tag than what we're seeing in the existing home market. So that could support that it's really a supply-driven story for who's the top shopper today as well. Then we have our second highest group being the first-time buyers. And then so interestingly to me, the third most active shopper group today are those relocation buyers. Now, we're the ones who have been saying that work from home is what turbocharged the housing market. I just thought some of the other groups would maybe be a little bit more active than those relo shoppers. But this will become a local specific story, definitely seeing more relocation shoppers in parts of the Southeast, for example, compared to other parts of the country. But the relocation buyers are the ones that are really muddying the waters. And I say that because they often are moving into these new markets and they're bringing a higher wage and they are possibly bringing some equity. And in a lot of cases, they don't have sticker shock the same way a local shopper would. And so I have had conversations with builders that have said they've been able to raise prices $200,000 in a matter of months because they have California shoppers or they have people that are out of state that have a higher wealth position that they can come in and they can spend more money on these homes. Now, when we look at builders, you see that they're able to take advantage of this in terms of base prices as well. So sometimes we're hearing builders are just going through an auction process to try to preserve their base price, but a lot of other builders are reporting that they are just genuinely raising their base prices. Still, the lion's share of the price increases are coming at the $5,000 price point. So you have 37% of builders that are raising prices $5,000 month over month. 20% of builders are raising prices $10,000, and an additional 20% are raising prices more than $10,000. And when we talk to the builders and we say, hey, what issues are happening from this? We have been reporting on a pretty regular basis that builders are telling us, yeah, we're having these appraisal issues. I guess the good news is the level of issues have flattened out. And so appraisals were getting worse and they were getting worse, and we were starting to see maybe a little bit of hesitancy from the buyers or issue with them getting qualified. All of those problems have really flattened out in the most recent read. with only about 13% of builders that are reporting that there's any kind of hesitancy from the consumer. Now, looking ahead, as we look throughout this year, we continue to ask builders what are the biggest things that keep them up at night? And the same top five that have been there are still the top five issues, though they have rotated a bit. So, the number one issue we're hearing from builders right now is building material costs. The second, building material availability. And so we've talked a lot about all of the different supply chain problems and that there's this whack-a-mole of what's the new problem. You're definitely seeing those are becoming an increasing issue as we go into the stronger part of the housing market here in 2021. Number three, affordability makes sense. We are seeing rates are starting to push up now above the 3% mark. 4 is gapping out on land, and 5 is land prices. Now, the final thing I want to leave you with is we're talking about this February report. And like I said, our new home pending sales index is coming out next Friday. You're going to see the data from the census come out, and the numbers may be surprisingly weak. And the reason that would be the case is because of the weather that happened in the South, in particular in Texas, one of the largest home building markets across the country. And when things have to shut down, and we talked to a lot of our experts that said you basically lost a week. You lost a week with lot development, with sales, with traffic, and then of course these are just going to heighten some of the supply chain issues. I would just make sure you're looking into the stats, making sure that the slowdown did come from the South, and I really hope that the reporters report on that correctly, because if you read it wrong, you could think that, wow, the housing market is really starting to shift down in gear. I don't want that to be a conclusion until we see a steady trend, and we're not calling for that. So watch for that. Watch for kind of funny data in February. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please go to zondahome.com. We are here to help. Thank you.